Hey, how's it going? Today is 1st of January. We just enter, I guess, new year. Let's take a look at some of the press releases and what information will be available of that. We're gonna begin by some of the government's press releases. It's great that government have released a couple of articles. We're gonna start with those, and from there, perhaps based on importance, we're gonna be touching on some of the developments happening. From there, we're gonna be touching on more or less finances and some of the things we or increase of prices. Everything is energy prices, fair prices, everything is increasing, and perhaps people recognizing that. And we're gonna be taking a look at government's press release. BBC is a part of government's. Let's see, perhaps how that will be packaged and sold to general public when it comes to why all these prices are increasing, right? And then let's begin. Uh, I would be reading all this information for the first time, right? That will be safe and all evidence led. New guidelines for smaller, remotely operated unmanned vessels. Maritime and Coast Guard agencies to uphold safety while supporting development. There are some of the vessels who have been tested to travel long distances autonomously. There are some projects that was developed. I don't know all the details with regards to this project, but perhaps that this particular announcement might come to perhaps when it comes to operating in smaller distances, right? The UK has become one of the leading international upholding safety operations in a smaller remotely operated unmanned vessels with new guidelines published on the Marine and Coast Guard Agency. Maritime Guidance Notice, which comes into force today, 31st of December, sets out a pathway for operations and a rapidly growing number of high-tech, remote operated, unmanned, I guess that's the way to translate it, between 2.5 and 4.5 meters length. So perhaps when it comes to market and or market segmentation, that will be these particular vessels that we're looking to address. If anything, when it comes to all these remote vehicles and all internet, so how these vehicles will be able to communicate UK while developing some of those projects should be taking a look at or engaging with perhaps European partners, United States partners, satellite communications, right, or internet connection, right? A quick note. I haven't read this article with so many different articles to read. Let's take a look at the next one. That's right, I understand that would be greener flights ahead for UK aviation. That would be sustainable aviation fuel. Mandate will support thousands of skilled jobs, deliver economic growth, and will help make UK a cleaner energy superpower. It's something that we were taking a look at previously. I don't know all the details about how we're planning of doing it. I don't know if I'm supporting any of those initiatives other than trying to understand it, right? So that's the reason why I'm reading it. Some of those initiatives, I'm just looking to understand it. I hope it's not a waste of everyone's money, but anyway, flight departing from UK will use greener fuels from today. 10% of all jet fuels must be sustainable by 2030 as one of the world's first sustainable aviation fuel mandate comes into force. It's just some of the notes, right? I don't know if UK can manufacture this fuel. That would mean that UK would this kind of laws, UK would be purchasing this fuel most likely from other partners, not manufacturing themselves. Or perhaps there might be opportunities to create those businesses, but again, alternative engines and perhaps so entire subject is very complex. We don't have enough time to cover it. Forms part of the government's plan for change and will help deliver a mission to make Britain a clean energy superpower. Let's try to understand it, I guess, briefly, and we're gonna progress and let's take a look at other areas. Flights are set to be greener as the UK ambitious sustainable aviation fuel mandate officially comes into force from today, that is 1st of January. SAF is made from sustainable sources such as materials like household waste. Okay, okay. Okay. It's very, very, very tricky. But anyway, if we can do it to use cooking oils and all, produce an average of 70% less carbon emissions than the traditional fossil fuel aviation fuels, right? I have so many opinions, but let's perhaps focus. Let's focus on what's written, right? By law, this type of fuel must now make up at least 2% of all jet fuels in the flights taken off from the UK from 2025, growing year on year to 10% by 2030 and or 22% by 2040, right? I don't know. The aviation sector is very sensitive and safety. Let's prioritize safety and fuel. Where fuel is coming from, I don't know. These ambitious but achievable targets should seen around 1.2 million tons of SAF or sustainable aviation fuel supplies the UK airlines industry each year by 2030, enough to circle the globe 3,000 times. Okay, let's progress. There was an article about some of those councils collecting food waste every week or so. That's something to do with this points. But anyway, let's close this article. Let's take a look at the next one. Let's take a look at this article. That could be what is the energy price cap and how are gas electricity bills changing. That would be something that will be published 13th of December. That would be gas and electricity bills are going up again in the 1st of January when this energy price cap takes effect. Customers are encouraged to submit meter readings to ensure they are charged the correct amount. But this energy price cap and how it's changing. The energy price cap over 26 million households in England, Wales, and North Scotland and is set every 3 months by energy regulator. It fixes a maximum price that can be charged for each unit of energy of the standard of default traffic of typical dual-use households would pay by direct debit. Between 1st of January and 31st of March 2025, gas prices will be capped at 6.34p per kilowatt hour and electricity at 24.86 per kilowatt hour, right? And if anything, prices are increasing. Let's take a look at the next article, right? Let's take a look at the next article. That would be era of cheap Russian gas to Europe and as the transits across Ukraine stops, right? Entire subject might be very complex since one line might be closing, another line might be opening when it comes to perhaps Ukraine. They have made decision to stop it, but another decision might be building another line that might go through Syria, may or may not, who knows exactly, right? So, but either way, let's take a look at this article and let's try to understand it. If anything, we can understand sums of money of how many billions of transit fees Ukraine won't be able to collect, but there's more complexity in there. It's very hard to cover some of these subjects in a very short amount of time, right? That would be Russian gas has stopped flowing to EU state via Ukraine after a 5 years deal expires, making end of decades of long agreement, right? At least the all partners have uphold the agreement, right? So that whatever they have agreed on, they have stick to that agreement. That's important part, right? Honor the agreement, right? That's important part. All parties have honored it, and when it ended, right? Perhaps we can touch on some of the sums if they are available, right? Briefly. I haven't read this article, right? But perhaps we can share a map of some of those pipelines. And some of those pipelines, if not right now, perhaps some of those pipelines would be built in the future, where a new pipeline might go from places like Qatar through Syria, through Turkey, and cover some of those governments in Europe when it comes to building new pipes, new opportunities, right? Prices, I can't find prices, but we potentially in hundreds of billions. This is how much some of those opportunities can cost, right? Let's take a look at the next article since that will be published today. That is bus passengers in England face £1 fare cap rise, right? So potentially something that used to cost £2 have increased to £3, right? 33% rise, right? Leading campaigning groups have said it will result in a costly start to 2025. The previous limit, £2, was introduced under the. Okay, so we're getting political potentially. We already know everything, or everything what we need to read about this article, unless they might cover some of the details other than prices increasing. Right, that's where things are, and perhaps by increasing, there might be more opportunities created in the market. Well, again, some of those service providers, it seems that some of those technologies are not regulated entirely when it comes to autonomous buses. There is still a lot of work that needs to be done in this area. Let's progress. Let's take a look at the next article. Let's take a look at the last article. That would be some of the large infrastructure projects, right? That would be HS2 is very serious situation, bosses says. Okay, sure. We were taking a look at Baltic Rail, and entire project have increased in price. So if it was 5 billion, now it's 15 billion. So let's take a look at what's happening in UK. That would be HST project is in a very serious situation and needs fundamental reset. The new boss of the high-speed railway company has warned. Okay, I haven't read this article. I don't know what's happening, by the way. Most likely, I do need to read it to say perhaps you need an additional injection of anyway. It was originally meant to be connected London with Birmingham, Manchester, and or Leeds, but the link between Birmingham and Manchester was scrapped by Prime Minister. Okay, sure, in October 23. The government last estimate the overall cost of the remaining Birmingham to London stretch is between 45 billion to 54 billion. So most likely we're taking a look at the increase and or reduction in distance, right? It is updated on Monday. HS2 said 38 and 55 miles of twin bone tunnel has been excavated and all 58% of engineering work has been prepared. Ground for the railway cutting embankments, stations and all landscaping has been completed. Work has been started on the building 158 and all out of 227 viaducts and all bridges. More than 31,000 people are employed and all program which has 350 active construction sites. Massive project, right? And perhaps there might be additional work if they would get better at what they're doing, which is great, compared to perhaps other partners who, for 1 kilometer, those partners might charge way less based on information available online. Spain, some of the partners would reduce cost based on how many projects they would do, right? So perhaps from this project they might be interested. Entire organization and all people, massive amount of engineering or supporting personnel required to complete such a massive project, right? They might be interested in carry on some of that work when it comes to. If it's a good investment, perhaps there might be additional opportunities, right? Project expected to be completed in 2025, including excavations of a 8.4-mile Northolt tunnels in West London and a boat bores in a 3.5-mile Bradford tunnel, which is getting a line out all the way to Birmingham, right? Since when it comes to cost, there might be a lot of opportunities. I would say coastal cities. So that would be east of UK all the way to the top, and perhaps south of UK all the way down. I would say perhaps that would be important, connectivity and creating those opportunities there, and particularly focusing on speed, how fast those trains would be able to drive. So most likely would be needed to be a straight lines, all these kind of things, right? But let's close on a positive note, right? Perhaps the entire project having increased in price, right? Let's close on that. Thanks for watching. See you next one.